You're listening to Season 2 of Beyond Insights, your go-to podcast for all things accounting, business, and technology.
Unsure how to improve your leadership skills, or whether you're suited to being a leader to begin with? Looking for ways to build a stronger team or take better risks? Then stay tuned.
From cybersecurity, blockchain, and AI innovations to sustainability, employee retention, and work-life balance, we've got you covered.
We speak to knowledgeable and insightful guests from varied backgrounds, industries, and locations from all around the globe.
From this multiplicity of thought, we strive to find solutions to our most urgent business problems.
Whether you're a small business owner, an accountant, entrepreneur, or even a young professional looking to progress, this podcast is for you.
Thank you for tuning in. Let's dive right in and go beyond insights. Hi everyone, and welcome to today's episode of Beyond Insights. Today we're joined by Juan Visser, the Managing Director of Meshed Group. Meshed Group is an award-winning consultancy specializing in software implementation and cloud solutions. It excels at offering tailored software tools that enhance business efficiency and achieve client objectives. In 2024, it received Xero South Africa's Integration Partner of the Year award. This award recognizes a trusted Xero app integrator who is a leader in the industry and offers the best advice for specific app needs. So really an amazing achievement. Welcome, Jean, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
So to get started, we're going to start by asking you to give us a fun fact about yourself.
I would probably say the best one would be the ones where I actually shaved my beard, and that whole month was the worst sales month ever. And I can probably say my beard is part of my brand strategy now.
Okay. That's so interesting. Okay, cool. Yeah, definitely a fun fact. I suppose good for sales that you have it back now. So now that we've broken the ice with that fun fact, can you tell us a bit about yourself and how you found your way to where you are today?
Well, about 10 years ago, I was actually studying to become a CA, and I wanted to revolutionize the world of accounting. Safe to say, I took a different turn of events. I completed about 2 years and 6 months of my articles, and I just decided I wanted to turn down the road of automation. I wanted to revolutionize how people use applications, and that's at the end of the day what my calling was for. I wanted to optimize and teach people to use the application better, and I also wanted them to know the best app stacks out there available at their display.
Okay, sure. So big shift into automation. And so, what kind of were the next steps after coming to this, I want to say, I forgot the word, but after coming to this realization?
After realization, I think I would probably say it's more dependent on finding a team that can actually grow with you, with that big dream that you found. And that was quite, I would say, a big challenge for me, because it's a very niche industry at the moment, especially about 6 years or 7 years when we started. That was a big challenge. And then the other thing was actually to learn out of my failings. That this very big industry of cloud automation, it was so new. Everybody made a lot of mistakes, but learning out of those mistakes was key to success.
Okay, cool. So that's how Meshed Group came to be, because of your passion for automation. And congrats on the great award. That's really, really impressive. Obviously doing great things. Do you want to tell us a bit more about Meshed Group before we go into like cloud integration and what others can learn about it?
Yeah, definitely. So, like I already told you, Mesh Group stemmed from the idea of integrating solutions and optimizing the use of applications. But the team has grown to a group of about 11 permanent consultants, and each consultant specializes in a particular niche app stack.
Okay.
And when I say app stack, it's essentially different applications that work together to solve a specific need. And you
Okay.
can't be a jack of all trades in this particular industry. You need to be a specialist in something. So I literally have a team that consists of data analysts that work with SIFT and Power BI that solves the automated reporting aspect for clients using cloud accounting tools. Then I have consultants doing inventory or ERP systems in collaboration with Xero. And bringing all of those resources together actually creates a meshed network, and that's where the name comes from.
Okay, cool.
That's what Mesh Group is all about, connecting all the dots.
Okay, cool. Oh, I love it's always so cool to figure out where the name came from. Yeah, and it's always cool. It comes down to that like core value and core principle. So no, very, very cool. So yeah, you're all about automation, and you mentioned cloud integration. So I think cloud was a big talking point back in the day, but hopefully most people have moved to the cloud now. So looking ahead beyond the current benefits of cloud integration that you've observed so far in like the South African accounting space, what's one key evolution that you see on the horizon for these integrated systems?
So I think, like you mentioned, we were all talking about moving to cloud about 5 years ago. And although we all talked about it, we still haven't yet optimized the use of cloud applications. And nowadays we talk about AI and all kinds of automations. But the next steps would probably be the phase where we start talking about hyper automation. And that's where we actually start combining AI with open API capabilities, AI learning the systems that we actually use every day, and API systems talking to each other.
Okay.
I think that is the next phase where we're going to move to, especially in the next coming years. But although, like I said, we're still moving to cloud accounting, we still need to optimize the use of those cloud applications. I still see people using 30% of the actual tools they pay for every month.
Okay. So it's more actually using the tools. And then I suppose if you haven't yet moved to cloud, then you're not going to be able to unlock all these other, advanced automations and stuff. So I suppose for anyone still there, it's a good reminder to make the move. And I think you're speaking about like, the meshed group and systems connecting. But what does deeper integration look like in the near future? And do you have any examples of this more sophisticated workflow or data flow that we might see?
Yeah, definitely. So we've actually been working with a local co-op supplier to directly integrate our inventory solution and purchase requisition tool to their platform, where we can actually connect directly with the supplier to fetch supplier invoices as they get created from on their platform. So what we can do on our side, the user creates purchase order requisitions, and we then automatically fetch documentation from other systems to automatically match the purchase order and the bill.
Oh, wow.
And that's what I'm talking about, hyper automation and open API. As we start to learn more about creating the open network, we can connect more dots at the end of the day, and we have less human interaction of verifications. So that's a practical scenario what we've been working on lately. Another scenario would be using tools like Make and Zapier to connect different applications via open API. And when I say tools like Make and Zapier, it's low-code, no-code scenarios, which actually enables the accountant or user to integrate applications without the need of a specialist or coder to write code.
Okay, that's great news because I actually built or tried to look into a bit of coding, because obviously in product I work with a lot of developers, and I'm like, I should learn how to do this coding thing, and coding is hard. So it's very cool that there's these other options out there. And I think it's important for accountants to know that there are options. Like they don't need to go deep into the code. They can find these other automations, and experts like yourself can give guidance on that. I think it's really cool, that automation, because if the human has to get involved, it takes a lot of time, but also there's risk of error. So if you can just auto match it, you can always have review, all those kind of extra controls, but it kind of takes away the monotonous task. So
Yes.
really great. And I think the connection between systems is where the struggle is at the moment, because you've got these great systems that store things and help make it easy to process, but that connection is sounds really exciting.
I think the one thing that we as humans neglect is we get so used to working on the mundane, repetitive tasks that we actually don't see them on our daily lifestyles. And that's what we're trying to identify and automate at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think that's a really, really good point. It's like you almost kind of get so used to doing it that you think that that's just how it will always be. And you forget that it's something you have to do because you just kind of do it. When that's probably the easiest thing to get rid of, so you can do something that's more satisfying and fun. I've used this example many times, but when I was in audit, we used to take, I think, like 2 weeks to kind of do this process to get ready for journal testing. And then we built an Excel spreadsheet that took it down to like 1 week. But by the time I left, we had a bot that did it in 6 minutes. And it's something that, when I started, it was like, that's just how it is. You send it away, a service delivery center does it. It's just the norm. But then we had to challenge ourselves. And I think you also touched on the fact that we just get used to it and we're always too busy doing it to make the time to actually do the automation. And so we had to kind of book a week to say, how can we save ourselves time in the future? And I think that's probably what you guys are all about. It takes a bit of time and maybe a bit of like effort and money once off, but then it should save and make your life so much easier, because no one liked doing those 2 weeks, I promise you. I think you touched on this low no code tool, and Zapier is obviously a great example. Do you have any other examples of that, or like how accountants should be like looking, for those options to really improve the way their practices work?
Yeah, there's a bunch of examples that I can use. It's like a very big universe of possibilities. I think low code and no code makes it possible to integrate anything at the moment that has open API. So think of scenarios where you want to actually onboard customers using an online form, but that online form doesn't necessarily connect with your accounting package or ERP system. So that it automatically creates that master file. So you can, for example, use an Airtable to store the data of those forms, and then use a Make or Zapier to trigger the automation between Airtable and a Xero to create the master files automatically for you. So then it automatically eliminates the need for a human to go and retype everything in your accounting system, and they can make mistakes.
Sure. No, that's an amazing example. And it's kind of like you outsource the work to your clients almost without them knowing about it.
Right.
I mean, they're going to have to fill it in anyway. And I think for me, it's those small tasks. I would almost again think, oh, but I'm going to have to set up that master file myself. Like there's no way. But it's really starting to like look critically at every part of your process and think, do I have to do this, or is there a better way? Because I mean, that's not a fun thing. It doesn't add much value to the business. There's additional risk in there, but if you can automate it, and it doesn't sound like it's too hard to do. So no, that's amazing.
The other aspect of that is, and this is when I briefly touched about it early on, adding the hyper automation on top of that streamlined onboarding process. Let's say you want to a system to integrate to supply or customer vetting background checks.
Okay.
To automatically tell you, hey, is this a reputable customer to onboard? So let's say you add on top of that automation integration to other compliance systems. That's when you start doing or entering the stage of hyper automation.
Okay.
You can also retrieve information based on the task that gets automated.
Oh, wow. Okay, cool. Yeah, it's kind of adding extra levels of automation to kind of give you more info instead of just inputting it, but also kind of feeding back that information. Okay, yeah,
Yes.
I'd say there's just lots of streamlining opportunities here for all of our listeners. So hopefully they're taking notes because, yeah, I think I remember I actually did a lecture at a university yesterday and I said to the students, they're very fortunate because when they go become trainees, there's a lot more automation and bots and all sorts of things that'll take away all those mundane tasks, hopefully. But I think the problem is, have people actually like embraced this opportunity and actually done the automation. So no, that's very exciting. So I think speaking back to cloud, and it's no longer just a cloud accounting software, but there's a whole app store and ecosystem. So are specialized cloud ecosystems becoming more important for specific accounting niches? And then how can firms leverage these? And what role does Mesh Group play in this whole big thing of ecosystems?
Yeah, so like I told you early on, you can't be a jack of all trades in the cloud advisory space. You can't say that you do 30 different applications, but you're not really a specialist in any of those applications. So I would advise accounting firms to really become a specialist in a particular app stack. And when there's anything they need to onboard that is beyond the capabilities of their expertise, talk to companies like Mesh Group, who has different consultants that can cater for all of those different aspects of the business. Because that's where they actually can leverage the network of cloud advisory to offer a better service to their clients as a specialist service. And especially in today's world where we have more than 1,000 different applications on the marketplace, you really need to know which applications to use, and which ones will actually just waste your time implementing at the end of the day. So leverage the integrator partners that have specialist knowledge on different applications. See which applications they implement, and make that part of your application stack for your practice. But also review your application stack at least on a quarterly or half-yearly basis, and get an expert in for a particular app to review if you use those applications at the optimal level.
Okay. No, I think that's really good advice. I think it's exciting to get all the new apps, and often I think you feel like, no, you need to know how to do it, but you should focus on what you're good at doing and rather get experts to help, because they're always going to know more. So I think that's a lot of really good advice on, how to get your app stack, how to specialize and make the most of the ecosystem and cloud. But if we think into the future a bit more, obviously the one talking point is AI. Everyone's talking about that. But what is one other emerging technology that you see starting to intersect with and enhance cloud integration for accounting in future years?
I think it's the aspect of hyper automation. I know I touch it quite frequently, but we haven't even touched 10% of what is capable with Open API even yet. AI is just adding on top of that really cluttered discussions. We're all saying, "Oh, I'm using AI," but are we really using it at a level where we can embrace that technology into our business? So I would actually take the conversation back when people start talking about AI. Let's just talk about Open API. What are you using to connect different applications, and how are you using AI on top of that Open API to really retrieve information for your business? But yeah, the other things that I also start to see in the next 5 to 6 years is probably, oh no, I forgot the word. Oh, no, completely forgot what it is. But it's actually connection between systems, um, where we, without API and AI, we can actually connect transactions to the end user, where verification can actually happen as it happens to make sure that it's audit compliant all through the transaction processing. I completely forgot the terminology for that.
I mean, I probably wouldn't know what the terminology is, so it's better to understand what it is. But I can definitely see the benefit of that. It's like real time, you can keep up to date. And I think from what I'm understanding from that, it's kind of like you can identify the issue as and when it happens, not waiting until like the end of the year to kind of get it. So no, that sounds super important. And maybe while you're thinking of the name, if you want to, just to touch on the AI, I think you summarized it so well because everyone wants to have AI in their features and to be using it. But I think often, as you said, it actually complicates things. It's good to use AI, but we always need to be thinking like, is it actually adding value? Just because you're using AI doesn't mean you're being efficient. It needs to actually be, improving what you do, and be reliable. So I think it's just critically think about that.
The terminology that I was looking for was actually blockchain technology.
Okay.
It's type of technology that is still developing, and we're not really embracing it at the moment. But I'll see it in the next 5 to 6 years being developed and embraced in the current applications that we currently use. It's going to make a lot of the services that we use way more efficient, especially in audit compliance.
Okay. I think, whenever people hear blockchain, they just think of Bitcoin. So really good to focus in on the use cases. And I remember when I was an audit as well, people were already starting to speak about kind of how this can be used in banking and audits and everything. So a really good shout out for people to be on the lookout for. Cool. So I think there's some good tech there, just, beyond AI. Mustn't always just be like focusing on, what's trendy. And then for accounting firms in South Africa that want to prepare for like this next generation of cloud and all these integration possibilities that you've touched on, what would be one kind of key piece of advice that you could offer them right now to kind of, make the most of these things?
Just audit your app stack quarterly or half yearly to make sure that you're actually using all of your systems at the optimal level. I see it every day. People use 30% of what they're using. They can easily ramp up their cost of monthly subscriptions and adding more apps for certain, how would I say, functionalities that they need, but they don't actually realize they can already automate a lot of that processes with the current app stack that they have.
Okay.
So before you start adding applications, first review if you're actually using everything at the optimal level.
Okay. I'd rather see what more you can get from the apps you're actually using at the moment. That makes a lot of sense. I have some rapid fire questions before I get there, I know you spoke about Mesh's inventory solution. Maybe you can just touch on like what it does, but also why, like what are some of the challenges in the market that led you to that?
Definitely in South Africa, we've seen a big need for an affordable, cost-effective inventory management application, especially for the zero market.
Okay.
There are some other accounting systems that do offer some inventory application, but it's really lacking the necessary need and accuracy needed for today's inventory management companies. And that's why we started developing Mesh 360 as a cost-effective solution. It's essentially an ERP. So think of Lego. We made it modular, so you can use different blocks to build a complete ERP at the end of the day with different modules working together. And we essentially used our knowledge of implementing various other ERPs or inventory applications to compile Mesh 360 at the end of the day.
Okay. No, it sounds amazing. I think the cost factor is always a thing, especially when you're in South Africa. That's always a factor. But yeah, I think inventory is like very industry specific, and you kind of want to do a lot of tracking and stuff, and reporting as well. So really exciting to hear about that solution. I know a few of our customers have mentioned it before. So yeah, very cool to hear about it and that it actually came out of lots of like being part of it and seeing what the challenges are in the market. So no, excited about that. Thanks for sharing. So yeah, I just have a few rapid fire questions for you now to end off. The first one is, what one piece of software besides Sift and Mesh 360, you've got to exclude those, can you not live without?
Let's just say Xero. I'm a very big ambassador of Xero accounting. And then I would definitely say there's an application called scribe.how that we use for SOP compilation when we do scope analysis, and then just general support. What it actually does is it records your screen and creates screenshots of everywhere where you click. And you can send that whole SOP to your client so that they see the exact instructions of how to complete a task.
Wow, that sounds amazing. We've also used lots of screen recording stuff, but the screenshots is a really smart thing because that's when they actually have to do stuff. And you usually have to do both sides. Sure.
And the other one that I use every now and then is an AI voice tool called Crisp.
Okay.
KRISP. It's actually used for background noise cancellation.
Okay.
So I have quite a few pets, and they make a lot of noise. And I work from home, and I usually sit in about 9 meetings a day. So without interruption, I use Crisp to ignore and eliminate that background noise.
Sure, amazing. I love those two are very practical. I'm going to be making a note of both of them. So thank you for that. Next question. What's the most valuable lesson you've learned about building a business?
Learn faster than you fail.
Okay.
That's definitely something that has stuck to me since the beginning.
Sure, that's a very, very good statement. Learn faster than you fail. Yeah, I think because your fail is probably going to happen. So good to learn from it. And then
it's important to recognize you need failure to learn as well, and learn from your past mistake.
Exactly. I mean, yeah, all the best ideas come from like problems that needed to be solved. So cool. Thank you. Lots to take away. And then last question, if there's one thing that you want listeners to take away from today's podcast, what would it be?
I think since the discussion is a lot about cloud accounting and cloud advisory in general, I would say don't think of cloud advisory as just accounting. Think of it as workflow reimagined. You can literally make anything happen. You just need to think it and apply an application that can automate those kind of processes.
Okay, amazing. I think, yeah, what I got, I'm just going to add my 2 cents, is to really challenge your processes to think about how you can automate it. Like you speak a lot about automation, and I think often we underestimate what can be automated. Like you just said, anything is possible. And so it's really about like challenging yourself and saying, do I actually have to do this or can it be automated? And I think that'll free up so much time to do the things that we actually love. But yeah, thank you so much. I really enjoyed this episode. I learned a lot. I think it's super relevant for all of our listeners. You know, from business owners to accounting practices, you know, we all have processes, we all have systems, and we all do things that we don't enjoy, that are monotonous. And so really good for us to kind of take a step back and think about what we can improve and how we can improve it, and where we're going into the future. So yeah, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. And I'm going to go and make a note of those 2 apps. I think I also need to get them.
Thank you for your time. I really enjoyed the session.
Awesome. Cool. Thanks to all our listeners, and we'll see you next time. Bye. Thanks for tuning in to the Beyond Insights podcast.
Please like and subscribe on whatever platform you're listening to right now.
And please share with any of your colleagues or friends or family members that you think might benefit from listening to this podcast.
That's all from us. Until next time, see you then.